Good morning, everyone. We're recording, and it is February 6th. Just the triple Lambos trading group. And real quickly, make sure we flash the disclaimer. We're not doing any sort of investment advice here. So, welcome, everyone. Who do we got here? Got some guys on. And someone's rolling a blunty. That's what I just went out and did. So it's okay. We're all here. All right. How's everybody doing? It's going to be just short and sweet. Want to talk about like everything that happened this week. Obviously, the big news was, we had AMC and GME and all of the ones that didn't pan out and all of the little Peters. But there's a lot of chatter and stuff like that, so we'll go on to stock picks and stuff like that. So we'll just go, if we want to do introductions, we can, but mostly we're just, if anybody who wants to unmute and just like chime in, be conscious of the background.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, just be conscious of background noise, and it's an open discussion really. So welcome everyone. I'm just going to go through our first couple slides here. Type of investor are you? I think that a lot of us are either in the scalper, day trader, or swing trader, and of course we have our long terms. We talked about some of those this morning. Like, one of the subjects on here that we have is trading platforms, and so who wants to lead the discussion on where you put your stuff? Because for me, and I'll just start the conversation, I keep my long terms in Schwab. I do most of my stuff in Thinkorswim just because they have the availability of most of the tickers. I've found that Webull is good and they have great charts, but a lot of the stocks they have are limited. Robinhood is everybody's favorite this week. International brokers, IBKR for short. A lot of people in our group are using Fidelity and E-Trade. I don't use them personally. So let's see what we have here. Does anybody want to talk about where you put your longs and where you put your day stuff? Or is everybody just kind of moving along and listening in? Because we can do this. If everybody's on the move, we can do this in a different format where it's not so much open discussion. We can just kind of go over stuff. What do you guys think? Again, this is open, and I really was planning on this. So this kind of was our week. I don't know how many of you old schoolers there are, but this is from Mork and Mindy, and honestly, this is how it felt all week. It's like all of our stocks we were just looking at. It's like, yeah, fly, be free, plop. And honestly, that was kind of the feeling for a lot of this stuff. Let's see, overall market. So I'm gonna pull up some of my tickers here. So this is my TradingView account, and you can see I've got quite a few of the tickers that we talk about in the group over here. So everything from AMC, which I'm currently bag holding really bad right now, like a lot of people, Apple, AstraZeneca, Alibaba. A lot of people had CCIB this week. I think that did pretty well. I'll go to the 5-day view. Yeah, it did really well. I'm going to turn this indicator off. Actually, I should talk about the indicator. This is the thing I've been working on, and it's still in its work in progress form. I've added a lot of stuff in here. So average true range you can show, but that kind of skews everything. And when you show that ATR plot line, let's see, show exit points. I found some of these scripts from other folks here on TradingView, and they do some really cool stuff, which is the EMA versus the average true range, and doing these green and red crossovers. And I'm just, again, I'm doing a lot of this programming and just trying to analyze what works best and see if any of these indicators are actually, good bets. Like from here to here doesn't seem like it'd be a good thing. So a lot of this stuff is just trial and error and experimenting. It's also got some signals that I have in the back. And again, I'm doing a lot of analysis on some of this stuff because I don't know what it is, quite frankly. And I just want to see which indicators are going to line up with, wins. So I'm going to turn those off. We have our Bollinger Bands, which pretty much everybody uses. And I was going off of a guide on kind of some of the best indicators to use. And in this particular tutorial, they're looking for Bollinger Bands going over the midline. And so in my settings here, what is it? I have my entry and exit points based on that strategy. But again, I'm analyzing and it doesn't seem like the midpoint is really the place to buy. It seems like it's more of the lower band. So I'm going to adjust this. But from what I'm seeing, and this indicator is lining on pretty well, this is the same indicator that I'm using over at the indicators that I'm using over at Crypto Hopper, which has been just phenomenal for just reading stuff automatically. And the idea is that once I adjust these down to, say, here as an entry point, and here as a sell point, that these will start sending signals to us, right? So I want to hook these into alerts. There's a programmatic way to add this to an alert, and what I want to do is be able to send a webhook, which for everybody who's given their email or their phone number, we can just have text messages sent to us. So that's the idea. We're getting there. It's not there yet, but I just wanted to show you kind of some of the progress. And when I say the progress and I'm writing stuff, this is what it looks like in its programmatic form. Like this is the actual code that's doing what you're seeing. And this is what I do professionally. So this all makes sense to me, but it probably looks like gobbledygook on the screen to a lot of you guys. But just so you know, like this is what I'm writing in order to see these Bollinger Bands and these little indicators and like this ATR plot and stuff like that. That's all the programmatic stuff, and that's all borrowed from other scripts that I've found. Right. So in TradingView, they've got these scripts that you can look through to find ideas. And so what I went through was just I found things like this that with these extra bands and divergences, they look fancy, but I don't really see the value in what you're looking at. I don't see that they're doing anything that's really relevant to sending signals for day trading. But like this one, I like because this one is more like Jarek. He uses this VWAP and Bollinger Bands. And so, look looking at this guy's scripts as a guide might not be a bad thing. So again, I'm playing around with a lot of stuff. You know, using other people's ideas and so forth. Where's that one that I wanted to show you that had the really good, here we go, stop losses. So one of the next things that I want to put in into my script is that, you know, right now I'm showing you entry and exit points, but in the entry points, what I want to start doing is showing these profit and loss regions, right? So if you're in here, based on the amount you have in your account, which you can set in the properties, right? I have my initial capital as a $5,000 account. These scripts can take that number and do some fancy math, figure out what the best profit point and stop loss point is going to be for you based on, like, you know, let's say you have a 10%, you know, stop loss as kind of a general rule. So your losses, your stops down here would be 10% of whatever your net is, and your profit margin would be, you know, pretty much let it run till it goes. But this is helpful because a lot of people this week, especially in the group, are just like, what's the exit point? What's the exit point? What's the exit point? And this is how you determine exit points. And, you know, right now I'm doing it pretty freestyle. So like if I get into something down here, and, you know, obviously I don't know at the time that it's going to go up that high. Let's say it's at 26.94. I'll set my original limit at $100. And then once I see where it's going, and let's say I want to get out of it at a particular point, then I'll go and modify my order from $100 to, like, say 35 down here where I know it's going to cross and I can just, you know, reap it. But that's not very smart. I got to watch it all the time. And the whole idea of making this indicator that's going to send signals is, you know, to do this stuff automatically. And if you have an email that you want me to send it to and you're monitoring that email, and you can, on your side, you want to hook it into your trading account so that it does your buys and sells automatically, great. That's my plan. And that's what I'm trying to do with this thing, so that, you know, I spend less time in front of, well, it's exciting to watch during the day. Well, I want to spend less time in front of my screen and more time just looking at, you know, where my indicator came in and where it got out and how much it got me. So that's kind of the idea behind the indicator. And we kind of jumped ahead there from the weekly perspective into, you know, what I'm calling the TRLG indicator in TradingView. But back to, you know, some of the fundamentals behind that, and that goes back to the charts and indicators. So this week in the chat room in the WhatsApp, we had some good images that were passed along from folks. And so we had this candlestick cheat sheet from last week, which I kept in here. So if anybody wants to screenshot this, and I can post these again to a Dropbox or whatever. I have a public Dropbox for the group that I can post these in. But here's a couple that came in that I thought should be included. And so you've got hammer patterns, inverted hammer patterns, dragonfly dojis, and this is a really good cheat sheet. Down here is the URL for it, and I'll make this a PDF, make it available on the Dropbox as well. But, you know, these are great for people who want to sit and watch charts and watch for these patterns to develop. And, like, you know, that's more, you know, going back to you know, what type of trader you're. That's more like the scalper method is, you know, following chart patterns in real time and looking for these, you know, wedges and heads and shoulders and things like that. For me, that's too much work. I'm a lazy man, and I'm also happen to be technically minded. So I'd rather have the computers do the work for me. So that's kind of, you know, the thought behind how I started this indicator and, you know, the things to include. So right now, I've pretty much thrown in the whole kitchen sink, right? You've got ATR that can be shown or not. You've got Bollinger Bands that could be shown or not. You can change the parameters on those and so forth. You know, and when you change it, it'll change up your buy points and things like that, right? So, you know, whether or not you want to show the entry and exit points, if you want to show that VWAP, which this is one of Jarek's secret weapons. And so, again, I took a sample of VWAP from another script, and then I baked it in here. And what you get is the actual VWAP for the day, which is the volume weighted average price. You've got a weekly, which is colored red or green based on the trend and whether or not it's broken over or under. And then you've got a monthly, which kind of just shows the monthly trend. And that's all part of this VWAP indicator under this show VWAP checkmark. And what I want to do is I want to have a little bit more of a deep dive with Jarek. He's given me some of his how he uses this indicator. I just haven't baked it in yet. And again, you can change parameters on these things to, you know, how long is your monthly? Well, monthly is 28 days. And so it kind of changes that purple line a little bit. And its angle you can see behind this panel. As I change this number to like 60 days, it flattens out a little bit. So all these parameters are things that I'm looking at and trying to find like the best like sweet spot for them to have as the default value for this indicator. And then finally, this is a strategy. And so I've included, I haven't put in the strategy part of it yet, but a strategy tester will do back testing. Let me just pull up one that actually works. Using this other strategy, when mine is complete, we're going to get this panel, this strategy tester, and what this is going to do is it's going to go back in time, and it's going to start applying my indicators to all of the stuff, and it's going to figure out if it had bought and sold when those indicators told it to, what my performance was going to be like, right? So 58% of the trades were profitable, of about, 99 cents. Had about a max drawdown, at the biggest I lost was $8. Average trade was less than 2 cents. And so if you change to, let's say, AMC, right, those numbers change. And when you write a strategy, it also gives you a summary of the performance, right? So for number crunchers, you can really analyze like commissions, things like that. And commissions are things that you can bake into settings, right? So if it's $4 a trade, you plug it in here per order per contract. And these are all settings that are baked into strategies from TradingView, and these properties and inputs just come from TradingView these are parts of the strategy that it asks for by default. So these aren't things that I had to put in. These are things that it asks you for just from using a strategy. So anyway, that's, here's a list of all the ins and outs. So going back to mine, I don't have the buys and sells programmed yet. So that's why it's showing no data. And that's the part I'm working on this weekend in my script here. So you can see there's part of it is backtesting. I'm right here and about to add the part that does the buys and sells. So that'll be done this weekend. I don't know that this thing will be ready for prime time until I've had some discussions with, like I said, with Jarek and a couple other folks to see which ones of these are going to be the best, because right now I have the whole kitchen sink baked in, and I don't know that we need that. Like if I show OBV, it kind of, overwrites the whole chart, and it's really unreadable. This is more of a volume thing. So, maybe the volume and the OBV go into a different panel. I don't know. Still working out some of the details on that. Let me turn off that OBV and the VWAP. And what you're seeing is the chart is adjusting itself to the auto fit settings. So as I back out, it scales itself down and so forth. Anyway, so AMC, talking about this week, yeah, it was a really shitty week. As you can see, it started off at like $19, and then all of the big industrial guys came in and pushed it way the fuck down and just kept it down. And now it's even further down. So, there's a lot of chatter over here on both AMC and QS of just your usual chatter of a lot of people lamenting and anguishing. Come on. Come on. Stop. Thank you. But there's a lot of chatter in here that I saw, at least today, that is saying, next Tuesday is the squeeze and all of this kind of stuff. So for anybody that actually has these things in there, smart about it, there's too much attention on this and GME, I think I have down here. Let's punch it in here. GME. And these charts look pretty identical, so you can see that they've been in, cahoots. But there's so much attention on them right now, and so everybody was like, "Oh yeah, Thursday." Thursday didn't happen, and so now they're all, "Oh yeah, Tuesday." So Tuesday's not going to happen. So pretty much, this is just one where, you're just going to have to sit on it until something happens. And so what I did was I looked back, and somebody on the chat yesterday had said that they saw it spike to like $17 or $18, and so I looked at the spike that he showed, and I went back and changed my limit to that 1750, because if it was a fluke, great. If it's a fluke again, maybe it'll close out and I'll just, take it. But trying to find where that fluke was in here, and I can't do it. It's just, I don't see it. So let's see, AMC again. I just don't see the after hours spike in there. So, sitting at 650, I needed to get to 1150. That's a long way. So anyway, that's kind of what's been going on this week with me. If anybody wants to unmute and chime in, talk about your favorite indicators, if there's anything I missed, if there's anything that you'd like to see me put into my code, because right now I can show average true range, and I can show Bollinger Bands or not. I can show, RSI. I can show the entry and exit points or not. I can show the VWAP or not. So, if there's, I know a lot of the newer people are like, what are all these things? What are all these things? Bollinger Bands. Really, I don't want to sit here and educate everybody on all these things, but these are the ones that I use the most. Bollinger Bands and RSI especially over in my crypto account. These are the two that really trigger everything. When the moving average crosses over the Bollinger Band mid and the relative strength index is around 50, that's when it triggers my stuff. And so that's been working really well. But it's just, I'm flying blind. I don't know. I haven't really played around with it to see if there's a sweeter spot for those numbers. I took the advice from a video I found, and it's working out well. So, if it works, don't fix it. But I do want to spend some time analyzing it. It's just finding the time to do that. Volume, everybody uses the volume indicator. That's these little blue lines at the bottom. You can see those back here on mine. I have them as not as blue, but as red and green, just to show, like, was it more buys than sells or sells than buys? I did find one in the editor's choice ones. Where is it? There was one that X that scripts. Got about 10 minutes left, so this is just an impromptu anyway. I don't want to upgrade. Thank you. Where was I? Damn it. Completely threw my train of thought. I was looking for all scripts, open sources. I want to search scripts for volume. What I want to do is, there was a really good one I saw that had like a heat map. Kind of like this, but that's a little annoying. Mine's more like this, which is red and greens, but he's got some sort of indicator baked into his. I'll have to take a look at that. Where was that heat map one? It was really snappy looking. Anyway, so again, if anybody has any thoughts on what they'd like to see in my indicator that I haven't included here, right now I've got Bollinger Bands and the RSI working together on one of them. I've got the volume indicator, the OBV, the VWAP indicator baked in, and then that average true range. I'm not sure which ones work, and so I'm trying to figure out which combination of the ones are going to be best. And some of that is coming from articles like this one, best combination of technical indicators. But like I said, I found that their strategy in here is using a midline Bollinger Band, and I don't think that's the most profitable. So, using strategies like this and information like this, I'm going off of what other people are saying. So, and that's kind of what I do. You tell me how it works, and I can write it up for you. You know, um, this kind of gobbledygook is my specialty. Um, I know MACD is a big indicator that I keep that in a separate panel down here. And what I look for in the MACD is these crossovers. Anytime you see a crossover, you'll see a trend change, more sales. And then when it crosses back over again, right? So this is an important indicator on when things are going to go from bearish to bullish. And so, and again, you can see my indicators are kind of lining up with that. And so that's good. Those are the things I'm looking for as I'm doing my analysis to try to say, hey, those are the things that are lining up. So, for anyone who's a little bit more advanced than me, who wants to lend any sort of advice on that as time goes on here, I'm more than willing to take, listen to anything you have to say. Again, there's different options that we can use in this, and I just program them. I don't necessarily know what they mean. It's just data to me. So, if anybody has some time they want to spend, I can publish this script in kind of like a limited form, and anybody who wants to help contribute to it or just kind of work on it with me, or load it up on their charts and say, hey, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing that, I could use some collaboration help. So I'll just put that out there. So we're almost out of time. Is there anything anybody wants to talk about specifically while we have about 5 minutes left? Go ahead and unmute and ask away. Otherwise, I go back to here and just let's see. We'll come back to here. Let's pull this guy up. I'm gonna zoom in here.
I got a question.
Yeah, please.
You use volume, because we all know we need volume. And then you got the 3 Bollinger Band. Do you use the average trading one band too in that?
Well, yeah, that's the average true range thing. That's what I was looking at, because one of these guides that I was looking at was using the average true range. And so that's why I put that in there. Let me just pull that up, put that. The problem is that I have to do a little bit of math to get the scale right. Show AT up and color. Right, because right now when I add it, because its level is down here in like the 1 range, but like the prices up here are in the 8 range, this might have to go into a different panel. So that's kind of something I'm looking at. But yeah, this average true range that I borrowed the code from, it shows like, the uptrends here, when to get in and out. But again, I have to just kind of sit here and look for these matchup points to see, is that the right indicator? Are these the right values? Right? Should this be a 28 instead of a 14? I don't know. So, if you want to lend any knowledge,
I have none. No.
Okay. Well, maybe that's.
I have some, but I'm not really.
Well, maybe that's a research project I do this week. Like go figure out, like, well, what does it mean and how does it work and how do I apply it, right? So I'm learning too.
The MACD, do you need to have all that? I mean, no. What I've been told and what I've been researching on and what I've seen guys say with much more experience than me sometimes simpler is better. So I know you say you got
Right.
everything in the kitchen sink, but we should probably thin it out, right?
Well, right. That's the idea, is that right now I'm throwing in the kitchen sink and I'm just looking at everything and seeing where things line up, right? And if I see, okay, this one's useless, take it out. And so, I mean, really, for me, the simplest one has just been Bollinger Bands and RSI, right? So those two work great, and that's what my signals are coming from. So it might just be what you just said, simpler is better. I'm just
Maybe we could
like,
have like a basic version for people like me, and you could have a pro vision for, you know, people who want to be able to customize it much more.
well, the whole idea of having these switches in here is to be able to do that. So if you don't
Right.
want to see the ATR, you know, for me it's more of, if I turn it on, I want it to be scaled so that it's meaningful, right?
Right.
So that's kind of what I'm working on, is getting these scales thing. And like the OBV, right? If I put the OBV in there, it just makes this big old blue thing and just erases everything. I can't see
Yeah.
it. So, you know,
What's that
right,
one you were using on the thing where the crossover thing? What was that one on the bottom you talked about a few minutes ago? Where the lines crossed over, showing the sale, and then they told
yeah, that was the ATR. That was that average
Okay.
true range you were talking about. And so,
Okay.
you know, again, I'm in the kind of R&D part where I'm saying, okay, and you know, you can see, and this is AMC, like the past, what is this, the fifth? This
Right.
big red slide on that ATR is pretty much
Level.
pretty much how the thing went. But you know, this whole stock has been on a downtrend. So that's where I have to start going over to, like, you know, look at some of the other ones and see, you know, if there's any meaningful, like here's HEMC, right? Everybody's looking at this one. I just have to go through and do some analysis, and then really I want to get input from the group, like, you know, do you want a simple one? Is there more an advanced one? Do I write two?